Well, I'm going to offer an insight, that I learned in law school many years ago in a course co-taught by Alan Dershowitz and Alan Stone, who was a psychoanalyst. The course was called Prediction and Prevention of Harmful Conduct. And there were many subtle lessons in the course, but the one that sticks with me is of the great difficulty to identify any set of traits, whether they're about religion or political belief or even past violent behavior, any set of traits that could adequately be useful to predict in the future dangerous or harmful conduct. And any attempt to do so is likely to create an enormous, you may catch some people who are bad people, but it's likely to create an enormous number of false positives. You will lock up or exclude from opportunity many people who would never do anything bad if you try to identify the 7 qualities that will predict danger. Now, that said, if I were running the Department of Psychiatry for the Armed Forces, I would be mindful of who was there and what their commitments were and what their stresses were, and including their political activity, if I thought it had a bearing on their ability to do their job.
Judge McConnell?
I was a little surprised at what Alan said, because earlier he was talking about the difficulty of distinguishing between religious activity and speech, and pointing out the importance of equality when it comes to speech. And I would have thought that at any public meeting, if there was a suspicion that there was incitement to violence, and especially to mass public violence, that the police or other appropriate officials in a public meeting would feel free to walk in and sit on a bench there and listen to what was going on. And if some participants happened to be well positioned to commit violence, or in the military, or in other circumstances where we would be concerned if it were a secular meeting advocating violence in a similar way, I would have thought we would take appropriate steps. Now, I'm all for treating religion, and especially religious minorities, with a good deal of caution and respect, but but espousing violence is not in the book, and I don't think because it's being done in a public meeting that happens to be called a mosque is a reason to shy away from it, any more than I would think that if there were a fundamentalist Protestant church somewhere advocating violence against abortion doctors, that we would turn a blind eye to that and just say, well, okay, that's freedom of speech. I don't think that is freedom of speech, and it's a deadly thing to ignore what's going on.
Let me just add one follow-up to that. Michael's comment presupposes that we know that incitement is going on in a particular location, a mosque, for example. What I was discussing was the government who thinks that the followers of a particular faith, like Muslims, have a propensity to engage in terrorism, and the government says, therefore, we can infiltrate mosques generally to make sure that what the imam or the clergy says should not be considered an incitement of violence. I think that's much more problematic than government infiltration after it has very hard evidence that incitement is going on.
But of course, the word infiltration sounds much more insidious than it is. If it's a public meeting, I don't think that the Fourth Amendment or any other principle of law keeps an official from wandering in just like anybody else and sitting there and listening to what's being said.
I can certainly say that in my synagogue, if we knew that there were police officers sitting in the back of the synagogue on a regular basis listening to what was expressed, people would feel uncomfortable. they would feel chilled in their expression of religious / political sentiments. Can't speak for other faiths or religious institutions, but I think having a government agent listening to everything that's expressed in a house of worship is problematic, without cause, without some showing that there's some reason to suspect that something unlawful is being planned or advocated.
With apologies to the people who are standing, I'm on a hard time that they gave me, and we're going to have to conclude. I have to give you a piece of instruction, which is because the next event in this room is a ticketed event, if everyone has to clear the room, you're supposed to clear the room and turn to the left, and there'll be, that will, I'm told, facilitate your re-entry into this room. I want to thank the panelists for a great panel and thank all of you.